this is a red alert. This is a red alert.
I'm Doug Hagmann. In studio with me is my son, my fellow researcher, fellow investigator, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and the Hagmann Report. Folks, you're about to hear an incredible 3-hour live program. Of course, this is, as always, a live broadcast. For new listeners, thank you very much for your kind emails and for checking in with us. You can do that, folks, by simply going to hagmanandhagmann.com, and there's a contact button there. You just press that, and it opens up a contact form, and you just fill it out. Let us know where you're listening from, and we like to know where the new listeners are coming from. We have a lot of new listeners all across North America, and I just want to say welcome. It would be just too extensive to go through all of the people who've checked in here with us over the last 3 days, actually. I do want to say that I do try to answer each and every one who says, hey, I'm listening from Dubuque, Iowa, and I try to answer them directly. Folks, our home base on the internet is hagmanandhagmann.com. That's a new home base, hagmanandhagmann.com. And tonight I'll be putting up what you heard at the opening of tonight's show. The triple red alert, and we have a red alert. Of course, the one voice should sound very familiar. That is Steve Quayle from stevequayle.com. And the other one is Dr. S., who appeared as a guest with Steve Quayle on August 25th. Yesterday I was saying September 25th. It was from our August 25th program. Now, what I've done, folks, is I went through and I edited the August 25th, 2014 program and extracted extemporaneous information from that. And what you have is a very solid broadcast for August 25th. Now, it's only on SoundCloud at the moment. So if you're interested in a very tight, very well-modulated program from August 25th, where Ebola is discussed. Now, don't forget, August 25th, almost a month before the individual who traveled from Liberia into the U.S., that was almost a month before that took place. And, folks, I asked a question, and I'm wondering how many people recall this. I asked a question of Dr. S. And the question, well, I did copy the question and answer. The question and answer is together. This is from August 25th, 2014. I'm going to play it. We're going to play it for you right now. Why don't you take a listen to it? Just take a listen to it. Again, this is a full month before anybody showed up here in the U.S. with Ebola. Once again, August 25th, 2014 edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Guests were Steve Quayle and Dr. S. M.D. Think about this question that I asked in the context of today's headlines. If you woke up tomorrow morning, and this is a really important question, I think, and you turn on the television, what specific news headline, soundbite, piece of information on the television by the muckety talking heads that are, nothing more than just teleprompter readers, what piece of information, what headline, what statement would make you say, whoa, okay, now we have a real big problem, a huge problem here in the United States or in the UK or wherever that person is reporting from? What particular headline, what sentence or sentences specific would cause you to say, oh, it's a new game?
The first American citizen in the United States that is tested positive for Ebola. The first person who is tested for Ebola, because I'll have no idea whether or not I ran across them in the airport. I'll have no idea. But if there's one, this is like just the numbers game. If you've got one, you've already got a bunch.
And there you have it. If you've got one, you've already got a bunch. Joe?
We have several reports on the Ebola patient and subsequent other patients. And this report today I wanted to hit first pertaining to the Ebola. Rick Perry, the Texas governor, said the first Ebola patient was in contact with school-aged children. Rick Perry confirmed that the first U.S. diagnosed Ebola patient, who is now in serious but stable condition in Dallas, had contact with children before he showed symptoms of the virus. At a Wednesday press conference, Texas officials and doctors say they do not believe the children have contracted the virus, but all involved will be monitored for any signs of infection. The patient, a male according to reports, was admitted Sunday on isolation unit at the Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital after seeking medical care there just 2 days prior. A spokeswoman for the hospital said Wednesday that the patient is now in serious condition, as Reuters reported. It goes on to talk about the travels of this gentleman, that he came from Liberia, where the Ebola virus is widespread. United Airlines said Wednesday that it was told by the CDC that Texas Ebola patient had used that airline to fly part of his trip. He believed to have taken United Airlines Flight 951 from Brussels to Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., United Airlines Flight 822 from Dulles to Dallas-Fort Worth on September 20th. The CDC also said there was zero risk of transmission on any flight which the patient flew because he was not symptomatic until several days after his trip. This reported by CNN.
There's absolutely, folks, no way that a symptomatic Ebola carrier cannot spread the virus in terms of, well, where he goes, whatever contact he makes. And you know, it's very interesting. This is one thing I was immersed in research and investigation today with respect to Ebola. Now, folks, the last thing that we want to do is cause a panic. No one wins in a panic situation. No one. A couple of things. I noticed a CNBC article. It was linked off of the Drudge Report talking about preppers, and
yeah,
there was. Did you happen to see that, Joe?
Yes, I did. I believe it's still up there. Preppers stock up on supplies.
All right. Is it still on linked off of Drudge, you said, or
yeah? Under the main headline on the left-hand column, about 5 to 10 stories down. What preppers are doing about Ebola is the title.
Right. Now, I had looked at the poll. What I thought was extremely telling, and here, folks, I would urge everyone to just take a really deep breath, take a step back, grab a cup of Camille tea or something, and just put your intellectual thinking cap on and look at this from a 3D perspective. As we always talk about, a multidimensional, three-dimensional perspective. The first thing that struck me in my research today was a poll done by CNBC. And this poll asked the question, has the Ebola diagnosis inspired you to stock up on supplies? Now, the yes answer, those people answering yes, 27% currently. Now, this is as of right now, with 12,318 people voting. Okay,
there's an equal percentile, 27% of people who also said no, people need to stop overreacting.
Exactly. Now, it's interesting. This one poll to me, given the venue in which it was presented, that being CNBC, for those to stop and engage in the poll, is telling. 27% yes. The Ebola diagnosis has inspired me to stock up on supplies. So,
and then you have a 25 percentile that said no, right. I have already stocked up.
Okay, let's move the no, the 25% aside for a moment. The reason we'll move them aside for the moment is if they've stocked up, they will not be in the midst of the fray. So let's look at this 27% that said yes. And then let's look at the next one down, which 12% answered, no, I'm waiting for things to get worse. Now let's take this poll, for example, at its face. What do you think is taking place right now, and what do you think will take place as things devolve? Well, one of the things I believe you're going to see mass panic. And the reason behind this mass panic, pockets of mass panic, well, let me preface it by saying that. And the reason I'm saying this is because the CDC, the World Health Organization, the very people in charge, especially within our own government, have lied to us. So suddenly, well, not suddenly, but now there is a lack of trust by anything the government has said because they've already lied to us. I mean, pick any topic. And I'm talking to you, Mike Malloy, and I'm talking to you, Tingles, and I'm talking to you, Rachel, Mad Al, and I'm even talking to the right and Coulter and others. Look at this. Isn't panic, stress on the system, isn't this part landing? Isn't this right out of I mean, this is ripped right from the page of the Alinsky playbook, isn't it?
And we see here another headline to what you're saying. Dallas parents fearing Ebola remove children from school. Parents on Wednesday were removing their children from Dallas school, where a student may have had contact with the Ebola patient diagnosed Tuesday. A letter to parents of children at L.L. Hotchkiss Elementary School in part says, this morning we were made aware that one of our students may have had contact with an individual who was recently diagnosed with the Ebola virus. The student is not currently showing any symptoms and is under close observation by the Dallas County Health and Human Service Department. As a precautionary measure, the student has been advised to stay home from school. Since the student is not presenting any symptoms, there is nothing to suggest the disease was spread to others, including students and staff. And it goes on to say, not the letter, but the article, that parents have been removing their children from the schools in Dallas in fear and anxiety over if what the school's saying is true or not.
What struck me, Joe, about that particular article, now that article appeared in the Star Telegram servicing the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, sometimes, folks, to really get to the meat of the matter, the information, the important information, you've got to drill down. You've got to really drill down into the article itself. If you go down, probably, let me look here. We just have so much information. It's on this. It's incredible, and it'll even a little bit more incredible as the program unfolds today. But I believe it's this article here. I've got so many pages with highlights and arrow marks to different things. Perhaps it's not in this article. in one of the related articles, they state that, well, first of all, they're declining to identify, obviously, the individual. Patient 0, we'll call him. The second thing is, they're declining to say whether this guy is an American citizen or just visiting. I suspect the latter based on everything. But what really struck me as telling in a number of different ways, and Joe, if you happen to find this particular paragraph, the report states that this patient 0 visited, and I'm saying this because the paragraph kind of didn't fit with the flow of the information. This patient 0, we'll call him, visited a community that spoke 33 languages. Okay. Now, first of all, yay for multiculturalism, right? Those who celebrate multiculturalism in America, well, looks like you've got your wish.
That statement has no relevant meaning or place in this article whatsoever.
Okay, well,
aside from a meaning that is not known to casual readers, or as you get into the numerology aspect of this, that is an important, number for, Luciferians, we'll call them. But besides that, there's no other reason anything like any statistic of that nature should be in an article pertaining to the Ebola.
Right. But don't you find the inclusion of that statement, regardless of what kind of article it would be in, to be extremely interesting and significant? 33 languages. Why? And then as we go on and
let's call the author.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure we would get a true, concise, and very, very good answer. Let me just see here. I think it's okay. It's in the article by Associated
Press. Here, I see it right here. It's in the Star Telegram article about the Dallas parents.
Yeah.
It says Dallas County is working with the Center for Disease Control to have boots on the ground to monitor those who might have been exposed. WFAA Sebastian Robertson is reporting that concerned parents are picking up their children from school, or one of the students may have attended. The Ebola patient was visiting a neighborhood where 33 languages are spoken, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins said. According to the Associated Press, the sister of the first Ebola patient diagnosed in the United States says he told his relatives he notified officials the first time he went to the hospital that he was visiting from Liberia, because he visited the hospital 2 days before he was actually admitted again for his sicknesses.
I really believe, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the flight schedule of this patient 0 coming into the United States, now you have to understand, there are not too many flights that have that particular route. But think about this. This patient 0 left West Africa on 9/19/14. Now, you might think, well, so what? Well, this, to me, and I was talking with our good friend, W, our intelligence insider, and I'm going to throw this open to him too, if he's listening, and if he's free, feel free to call in, and we can discuss this at greater depth, because I think this is important. But he reminded me of something else, and folks, this is something that as we look at this again, look at this. Put your 3D glasses on. and look at the facts associated with this. Where did the first outbreak or the first contamination occur? You know the answer to that, right? Dallas, Texas. When did the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, in particular Liberia, really have a foothold? If you look back in the timeline, it wasn't 2014. It was when? It was around November of 2013. Dallas, November 2013. Ring any bells? The 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Some say that assassination was a coup in America. That was the headshot. The assassination of JFK was the headshot. And my good friend, the intelligence insider, had reminded me today. He said, go back and look at the video you did for the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. What was the message there? 50 years ago, they killed the head of the country. That was the headshot. That was the kill shot. Now they're coming for the body of the country. It's a mobster kind of hit. We talk about this all the time. You have to ask yourself, out of this vast country, Baltimore, Washington, airport, why not Newark? If you think about it, Newark and LaGuardia, or JFK, that is, in Newark, perhaps per capita, they get the most transnational rivals. Why not Portland or Seattle or Los Angeles or Miami? It's a big country. So it happened in Dallas. From a perspective of looking at this from a Luciferian satanic perspective, wouldn't it make sense that this would take place in Dallas, given the fact that we're being sent a message, perhaps? And as we talked about yesterday, too, about the symbology being used, the diving dove. Now, on the March 15th episode of A View from Space, Gary Bell, who gets into symbology, who talked about the diving dove. We'll trying to see if we can't get. We're trying to isolate a clip from that show. We don't have it available for tonight. It's unfortunate, but because there is very significant discussion, a few-minute discussion about the symbology. Actually, the entire program was dedicated to symbology. And how does this fit in with the MH flights, the Malaysian flights? Don't forget, the one flight carrying, let me just make sure I have this correct. Once again, if you look at and see what we're dealing with in terms of voluminous notes, and looks like a pretty twisted pretty twisted connected dots picture here. The second flight, I believe it was, that was shot down over Ukraine. They had, on that flight were experts the AIDS virus. Now think back, folks, about the AIDS virus. The World Health Organization, actually they were on their way to Australia to talk about to vote, cast a peer vote, that the World Health Organization was actually behind, the acting force behind the creation and propagation of AIDS. So think about this now. You've got a group of scientists on this Malaysian air flight that was shot down over Ukraine. By the way, Ukraine flag depicts a diving dove, symbolically. Shot down over Ukraine, but they're on their way to Australia to vote, to put it on record that the World Health Organization was behind AIDS and the propagation of AIDS. They were going to vote, a real live vote in Australia, to denote, advise, to verify, or to cast their expert opinion collectively of what I just said, and also that this was AIDS was and is a genetic bioweapon targeting the black race. And mysteriously, it was shot down. And they were originally scheduled on I believe it was a KLM flight. And because of the contract between KLM and Malaysian Air and the lack of seats, KLM really didn't have that many passengers, so they moved this group to the Malaysian aircraft. And this Malaysian aircraft was shot down. So there you have a plane load of scientific experts who are going to cast a symbolic and very important vote that would target and impugn the World Health Organization, put it on record not only about AIDS, but also to take one step further and to say, well, wait a minute, Ebola is next. They were concerned that the rock group WHO, they were concerned with that the World Health Organization would use the same template that they did with the AIDS virus. And they were going to make sure that the world knew about it. But the same thing happened before, and it's going to happen again. Bang, they're gone. Have you heard anything more about that vote? No. Silence, crickets. Done. Coloring on the Malaysian aircraft. The blue and red, the overlapping, the stylized 33. 33 degrees and Freemasonry. And when this all began, you'd want to talk about symbology. What was coming out in the theaters? What was the very big movie coming out of Hollywood? Noah. And folks, we all know the story of Noah. When was it safe for Noah and others, or the occupants of the ark, when was it safe for them to make land? Dove that was released from the ark came back with an olive branch. Here we have a dove again. Everything that we're seeing is dripping with symbolism. And one thing that Gary Bell, View from Space, on Saturday nights, AM 540 out of Toronto. One thing he mentioned is that symbolism, transcends language. Now, there's a lot of things to think about built into what I just said. If you look at what's going on here, folks, this is no accident. You can believe what you want to believe. You can choose to deny everything. You can carry on blissfully, as perhaps your neighbors do, your coworkers, your family members. Maybe this will get their attention a little bit. Maybe it won't get their attention until, of course, an Ebola patient suddenly shows up in their community. Maybe not even then. Even then, it will be hard for them to accept that what's taking place is not by accident. What's taking place is part of a larger criminal conspiracy. And as we walk through all of the events that we're seeing, let me take this one step further. You've already seen the reaction from the people in Dallas. I shouldn't say I've already seen the reaction. You've seen the beginning stages of a course of reaction. Now, having said that, how much further will this be taken? And what happens if patient 2, 3, 4, or a child becomes ill or presents with symptoms? They're already taking children out of school. And can you blame them? Of course not. The one school, as Joe mentioned, where this man had allegedly, reportedly, had contact with. Now, I don't know exactly how that works. Perhaps it was a family member. I don't know. I wouldn't trust whatever we hear by the mainstream press. But folks, this is extremely deep on many levels. You go back to the symbology, as our intelligence insider talked about yesterday, made reference to, and we talked about Katy Perry on Harper's Bazaar magazine on the cover, of all of the jewelry that could have been selected for that photo shoot. Here she is wearing a ring depicting a diving dove. The same image that is prevalent in the church, Catholic Church especially. The same image in duality used by Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and the OTO, and the same image as the Malaysian air flights. Is this all just one big accident, one big coincidence? I don't think so. Why Dallas? Again, if you go back to the YouTube video that I created, again, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the coup in America, the murder of John F. Kennedy. And if you follow the trail there, go back to the Dulles brothers, George Herbert Walker Bush, Sturgis, and others. Dealey Plaza. We are entering into Dealey Plaza. We as a country, we as members of this country, as citizens of America. Symbolism, the symbology, the satanic imagery, the satanic symbology, the occult numerology. Are we to dismiss this? We do want to hear your thoughts on this. Joe and I had talked earlier today, and although we intended to get deep into this, one thing, I received a call, and thank you. You know who you are. I know you're listening. Of a gentleman in Chicago who was in Chicago here over the last several days, and on Friday he had witnessed off of I-94 heading into Chicago a semi-truckload full of these coffin liners. That was on Friday last. And then yesterday, sometime around the noon hour, 12:45, I believe it was, he had witnessed 3 helicopters, gray, no markings, 3 Ospreys, flying at about a 200 feet level. I mean, we're talking like a die-hard situation where you've got helicopters flying, or whatever the movies are, where they're flying among skyscrapers. Enough where the wash of the props would mess up your hair. Those 3 Ospreys were followed by 2 additional unmarked gray helicopters yesterday. Same altitude. Gray, no markings, as I said. Enough to mess up your hair. Now, the reason I brought that up is, again, that's an interesting piece of information that I think people need to know. The coffin liners, or the coffin liners, as well as the helicopter overflights. But you, ladies and gentlemen, have, and since we've always said this, and we mean this, you have a fantastic way of discerning things. And in a lot of cases, many of you are certainly much more intelligent than we are. So we want to hear your thoughts on the satanic workings of what we're seeing take place today. Now, if you can please be as coherent as possible. At some point we'll throw open the lines, but the topic would be the satanic aspect of what we're seeing take place, whether it be the Ebola, and that's the flavor for right now, or if that is perhaps diverting our attention from what is taking place in Syria, which we had discussed already, that Syria, of course, World War III would begin in Syria, and after everything heated up with Ukraine and elsewhere, and after our outrage prevented, I believe, or had played a role into this, the renegade in chief not doing what they wanted to do in Syria directly. Have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that now Syria remains a target and is now being bombed when 6 months, 8 months ago, 12 months ago, that would have been cause for not just outrage, but calls, I'm sure, for impeachment. It's okay today. What are they hitting over there? Are they hitting ISIS? Joe talked about this yesterday. So what we're looking at is a backhanded approach to ousting Assad in Syria and taking that country from the Russians. And as our intelligence insider yesterday stated, Syria is not a Libya, it's not an Iraq, it's not an Afghanistan, certainly, and it's not going to implode but explode. And don't forget the words of Vladimir Putin. That's his red line in the sand, Syria. Don't forget that the Russians have a military and economic interest in Syria, as do the Chinese. Look at the proposal for the pipelines, the gas, energy, right through Syria. So there is not only a military, but an economic value to Syria. So causing us to refocus and look at what's going on domestically is to take our eyes off of Syria. And when World War III does go hot, because it's already in progress, are you going to be surprised? To those people who have sent me hundreds of emails saying that, boy, were you wrong when you said death race, or when you wrote death race Damascus, and talked about Syria, and talked about Benghazi being the logistics center for ousting Assad in Syria for the weapons and running operation. What do you think now? And speaking of Syria and Benghazi, we are still, obviously, brand new. I think this is week number 2 into the Benghazi, the House or the Senate Select Committee on Benghazi. The 12 senators who are actively involved in the investigation. And what did we say would be problematic? What did we say? That if they focused on diplomatic security, it would not be a legitimate inquiry. It would be a Warren Commission or a 9/11 Commission. And what have they been focusing on? Diplomatic security. So having said all of that, Joe, what do you think, sir, of the issues at hand? The symbology, the occult aspect, the Aleister Crowley, the dualism, the 33s and the 19s and all of this, whether it's Ebola or Syria. What do you think?
No comment.
No.
Actually, I'm going to jump in here with another angle. They've released the winter storm names for 2014 and 2015, what they are and what they mean. And the Weather Channel has released a list of winter storm names for 2014-2015 season from the 3rd annual rundown of names that will be attached to storms in the winter weather season. The names will be used in alphabetical order to identify strong winter storms that meet the naming criteria. The 2012-2013 list for winter storms was the first of its kind to be developed by the Weather Channel. They say it's an easier way to communicate about complex storm systems if it has a name, which their naming program was conducted by Byron Norcross, Senior Hurricane Specialist at the Weather Channel. But what's interesting is a list of 25 names to be used this winter season as a guide. Here are the names and the meanings. Number 1, Astro. In the Greek, it means star. Number 2, Bozeman, in honor of Miss Shoup's Bozeman High School Latin class, which provided the 2013-2014 list. Number 3,
Wait a second. Bozeman as in Bozeman, Montana?
Yes, and I got this from Steve's site, so he linked to this. But let me continue here. This gets interesting.
I got a feeling that Steve Quayle is responsible for Bozeman, but go ahead.
Number 3, Cato. The name of a Roman statesman and his great-grandson were both known for their integrity. All right, here we go. This is where it gets interesting. Number 3, Damien, from Greek mythology, known for his loyalty. Arius, number 6, from Greek mythology, the goddess of discord. Verona, Greek short for Sophronia, related to the word for wise. Gorgon, from a Greek mythology, one of 3 monsters, serpentine humanoids. Hector, from Greek mythology, the Trojan champion who is killed by Achilles. Iola, from Greek mythology, a variant spelling of Lola, a beautiful woman who Hercules wanted to marry but could not. Next, Juno, from Roman mythology, a goddess who looked after the women of Rome. Karai, the Finnish name derived from the Greek name Makarios, from the Old Greek meaning blessed or happy. Linnaeus, from Greek mythology, a son of Apollo, known as a great musician. Next, Marcus, an ancient Roman name referring to Mars, the god of war. Neptune, from Roman mythology, the god of the sea. Next, Octavia, the sister of the first Roman emperor, Augustus, who is also known as Octavian. Pandora, from Greek mythology, the first human woman created by the gods. Quantum, from the Latin word quantus, meaning how much. Remus, from Roman mythology, one of the founding brothers of Rome, along with Romulus. Next, Sparta, prominent Greek city that was the principal enemy of Athens during the Peloponnesian War. Next, Thor, from Scandinavian mythology, the god of thunder and rain. Ultima, from Latin, the feminine version of Ultimus, meaning last, furthest, final. Venus, from Roman mythology, the goddess of love. The next one is just the letter W, with question marks next to it, that says, help us choose, take a poll on this page. The last 3, Xander, Dutch, from the Latin name Alexandrius. Yuli, a Basque for the Latin name Julius. And lastly, Zelus, from Greek mythology, personifies dedication, envy, jealousy, and zeal. Those are the 25 names chosen for the 2014-2015 Winter Storm naming list, most of which are from Roman or Greek mythology, and some planets mixed in there. But they are all correlated with ancient gods or goddesses, most of destruction and evil, when looking at all the other issues and things we see going on in our world today. From the Ebola to the numerology to the New World Order satanic agenda being carried out. And you look at the list of these names. I mean, we know it's just the name of a storm we're talking about, but is it really just that? Why so many popular, destructive, mythological gods and goddesses are part of it? Why are they part of this? What's wrong with normal names without meanings of destruction behind them or ancient mythological understandings?
It's a very great observation. Let us know. You know, you had mentioned Venus. That caught my attention. And of course, Venus is extremely important to the Illuminati, to the gods that walk among us, little g, by the way. And, of course, just as an aside, those people who know what I believe or have researched and based on my research and concurring with W's assessment, it's interesting to note that Prince William, for example, was born during a Venus transit in a Yeah, Prince William was born during a Venus transit on the summer solstice. And Venus, of course, connection to Isis. This is no accident, folks. I mean, this is a blatant, in-your-face type of events that are taking place. The reason that I believe this is important, that we all should know about this, or we all should be aware of this, is to understand the opposition's playbook, is to understand, perhaps understand, or at least have some sort of ability to perhaps prepare for what's coming. That's why I believe this is important. Some people might think it's a waste of time. But is it really? If you've got the ability, folks, to gain a greater understanding that not only emboldens your walk in your Christian walk, your walk in the faith, but to identify the actors behind this Luciferian agenda.
Yeah,
it's so important.
There's a book that Dr. Carl Payne wrote called Spiritual Warfare, and it says this. It says, as I mentioned earlier, a demon's first job is to keep you out of heaven. If he fails on that mission, plan B is to keep you so preoccupied in distraction that you never feel qualified or have time to help someone else get there.
Isn't that's a marvelous quotation when you think about this? Because isn't what we're finding today, ladies and gentlemen, believe me, I am in the thick of it in terms of it feels like you're in a swimming pool, water up to your neck, and you're trying to run a race. That's what life feels like today. And for a lot of people, the reason behind this, of course, you're trying to keep the mortgage current. You're trying to pay the bills. You're trying to feed your family. You're trying to get your job done. If you work. If you don't work, you're trying to take care of the house. And you know, you want to talk about stress. I've said this before. People will say, well, the president, and I'm not talking about the renegade chief in this case, but I'm talking about a legitimate president. They've got a lot of stress on them. But don't forget, they've got a lot of people, a support staff. But to the single mother in Washington State, or the single parent in Wisconsin or Nebraska or wherever, or anywhere in the world, or to a family that's got problems, and you name the problem, we all have problems. If not directly, then within our purview or within our inner circle. Isn't it something that we are spending so much time trying to keep our head above water and trying to keep the lights on and dinner served, even if it is grandma's helper or whatever it might be? You're doing the best that you can. And it seems that the best that you're trying to do isn't good enough. Or I shouldn't say isn't good enough. Perhaps it is becoming less than it was a year ago or 6 months ago or a month ago.
And then you feel like it isn't good enough, like it isn't enough. It gets into your mind, into your thoughts, and that affects your actions going further, however much you let it affect your thoughts. Correct.
And I'm not saying, of course, that our minds, of course, we should be consumed by the earthly things. What I am saying, folks, is that we do have to live. We have to occupy, obviously. And in doing that, we have to remain viable. In order to remain viable, so we can fight another day, we can help others, we can assure or at least work toward our salvation through our works, understanding, of course, that we are already fighting from a position of victory. But life does happen. And, the cards and the letters and the emails that we receive, that I receive, I mean, there's, I don't want to sound dramatic about this, but there's been more than one tear shed on those, because I can feel the pain increasing of the people, of the listeners, of the people who listen to this broadcast. The pain, and it's real pain. So I don't want some bureaucrat talking, with 17 assistants or 20 assistants that have bodyguards around them 24/7, that have to have some shill that pulls out the chair for them when they sit down. That's a Gerald Celente reference. Not to disparage Mr. Celente, he tells the story of when he worked in the New York legislature. But so stress is middle America, the middle class, the diminishing middle class, trying to live, raise a family, and plug the holes, the many holes that exist. That is real stress. And wondering if you're going to have enough money, if the month will allow you to have enough money, that's stress. You go into the grocery store, and we see this happening economically, and this is a part of the satanic agenda. And tomorrow, by the way, we're going to have V, the Guerrilla Economist, on with Mark Radcliffe, I believe it is. I have to double-check his last name. I was screwing it up all day today. We're going to have them on talking about the economy and the global economic meltdown. But, we're watching it take place before us as we walk into the grocery store, and we see that we can't even afford the 83% or 85 or 87% fat-free or lean. I guess that's what they call it, ground beef. You've got to go down a few notches. You can't, it's not like it used to be. Or you can't, instead of filling up your tank. And where are the people, by the way, who in 2004 and 3 and 2 and 5, who were complaining, and especially 2008, when gas prices were way up there? Where are the people? Have we just rolled over and accept the gas prices as we're paying them right now? And I know this is a tad off tangent, but I think
gas prices are down to their lowest levels since February, and the price per barrel of oil has gone down significantly in the last few days for whatever reason. I think 3%, over 3%.
Well,
but the price at the pump still is very high for the price per barrel of oil.
But is that considered the new normal? In other words, look, if you are Sean Hannity, or if you are Rush Limbaugh, or if you are Tingles, or if you are some of these highly paid, or even Megyn Kelly, for example, on the right, or some of these smiling faces behind the TV cameras. If you drive, you probably have someone else filling up your tank. But having said that, they don't have to worry about the price of gas. But my question is, in looking at this, is where is the outrage that we felt about the gas prices? Even though they're down, that's like saying, well, I reduced my credit card debt from $10,000 to $8,000, but the interest rate is still 24%. I don't get, are we really making headway? Or let me say this another way. the credit card debt has been reduced by from $10,000 to $8,000, but the interest rate went up from an introductory rate of 6% to 24%. We should feel good about this? No, we shouldn't. But this is the mindset of Americans. This is the mindset of many Westerners. And this is also the mental conditioning that allows that's conducive to the or that allows for this satanic, Luciferian, Masonic agenda to take root, to take hold, to exponentially gather steam across America, to allow us to have these black satanic masses, and to yawn at the news of a beheading or a dual beheading in Oklahoma. When I say yawn about it, you know, a decade, 2 decades ago, such news would be on the front page of every paper and be the top story with the media personalities. But because it's associated with Islam, and Islam is associated with the New World Order agenda, there's no outrage. There's this tacit acceptance. And how does that fit in with all of this? Because that's purely demonic. I know we're up against the top of the hour. Folks, you're listening to a very special Wednesday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're going to be turning it over to your thoughts as well, with more news coming up after the top here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this first day of October 2014. This year has gone by so fast. Already into October. Before we know it, it's going to be November, December, and into 2015. Tomorrow, as my dad said, we'll be joined by V, as well as, who is the second person? You just shouted the name over to me.
Yeah, actually, I think it's Mark Raycliffe. I've got to double check.
Okay, Mark Radcliffe, yeah. Will be with us tomorrow with V, the Guerrilla Economist, and Mark Radcliffe. Friday, we'll have Henry Groover and Steve Quayle. Into next week, Monday, we'll be joined by Josh Tolley. Tuesday, Stan Dale. Wednesday, Pastor Paul Begley will be on his show from 1 to 3, and he'll be on our show. And that is the day of the second blood moon in the 4 blood moon tetrad cycle. We're going to be taking your calls this hour at 661-244-9839. We're going to go to area code 325 first. This is Rusty, I believe. Rusty.
Hi, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I got a new microphone for my iPhone, so I wanted to make sure it worked all right. Hey, first off, I got to toot my horn a little bit, because last year I predicted that we were going to hit 120 a barrel on oil before Christmas. We came close. I was off by $3. We hit 117 before it started going down. So I was pretty close on the oil. And I also predicted that they would announce that we were the largest oil-producing country in the world, and they have now announced that we are the largest oil-producing country in the world. So,
yep, I
just kind of got to, actually, I kind of owe that analysis to a lot of the guys I work with too. So, this whole deal in the Middle East, I can't make it out. I have looked at this from the perspective of the oil industry, excuse me, and I can't see the rhyme or reason behind this, because putting a pipeline through that area is insane. We already know what happened when the Russians ran a line through the Ukraine and they threatened to blow it up. It's one of those things. It's an artery that is easily cut. They have got to have stability in an area before they put a pipeline in, and not only stability at the time they put it in, they've got to have continued stability. And there is nowhere in that area over there, with maybe the exception of Lebanon, where there is any kind of stability whatsoever, or Israel. So I don't understand what they're doing from an oil perspective. We're seeing the oil drop right now. There's one real easy explanation for that. We've got November 4th coming up. it's an election day, So they do it every year, every other year when they have a major election. They drop the price of the oil so people are not so, disgruntled when they go to the gas station and then to the election booth. Both sides manipulate it down like that. I don't know how they do it, but they do manipulate it down. And you can go back, and it's a clear pattern. Every November since, I was a child, you can see that they manipulate the price of oil down just before the election. So that's my opinion on why.
Right.
Well, that and we're also flooding the market with oil. I've moved out of West Texas. I'm actually working up on the Bakken Shale, which is North Dakota and eastern Montana, and it's just, I thought West Texas was wild and woolly. You wouldn't believe it up here, the rate at which they're punching in the production numbers that are coming in. It's insane.
Is this on private land or is this on government land?
The majority of it up there is private land. There is some government drilling going on Bureau of Land Management, and they call it National Forest Service up there. It's actually grasslands, owned by the federal government. And there is some going on the Indian reservations up there, although that's died off considerably. The cost of doing business on an Indian reservation is pretty high. And I'll just leave it at that. I won't expound upon it.
Understood. Well, again, though, it comes back to, in my view, it comes back to this acceptance of the price of a gallon of gas or heating oil. It's almost where we would have objected a decade ago. Now it's, well, okay, which I feel is really reflective of the entirety of everything. I mean, think about it. If $3.49 a gallon or whatever you might be paying close to that is acceptable to you today, even in considering a dip in the run up to the elections. So will $4 next year be acceptable to you? At what point do you say? That's my point.
Yeah, but as Americans, we've seen such a sharp rise in the cost of everything. I make no qualms about it. I'm a survivalist and a prepper type of guy. I run a website that shows people how to do stuff, and I talk about the price of food going up. We've had an 8% increase in food prices this year. So if you think about that from the the perspective of a dollar bill, if you paid $1 for a pound of rice a year ago, and it's now $1.20 or $1.10, and if your fuel goes up from $1 to $1.10, you don't. It's just you in your mind you say, well, everything's going up, so gas is going up with it. Now all of a sudden, just before election, they can manipulate the price down. They can dump the strategic mineral reserve. They can use the plunge protection team to short and long and play their little games that they do to run the price down, so that we see in their minds their people getting put into Congress and the Senate. And I firmly believe that's what's going on. They do it every year that they have an election, and you can go back and look at the charts on the oil. They do it, and don't look at it year to year. Look at it month to month leading up to the election, and see what happens, and see what happens after the election. It goes back up to where it was before. That in my opinion, is what's going on. And again, it's not that hard to do because we're flooding the market with oil right now, but.
Right, I get that, but we're also looking at, I suppose to be more technically accurate, you're looking at the devaluation of the dollar, U.S. dollar, as opposed to prices going up. Your dollar is actually being devalued by the Fed, and you're buying, that's the real key here, I believe.
Absolutely, that's what's going on, and part of the devaluation is the Fed. Part of it is we're starting to see. We got the concept of the petrodollar. We're starting to see foreign countries, India, China, Russia, South Africa, the BRICS nations, are basically starting to trade in their own currencies or gold and silver, which takes us out of the loop. They no longer have to buy American dollars to purchase petroleum or to trade in petroleum. They can go and by their own agreements, can use their own currency, which means now we know not only do we not have gold and silver backing our currency, but we don't have petroleum backing. So what do we have backing it? Well, we have the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Well, how screwy is that? The full faith and credit of the U.S. government means they might just invade your country next year because they don't like who's in power. And that's about the only full faith and credit that we have, because we've pulled this crap so long against so many different countries that nobody trusts us anymore. I honestly, and I love my country, but I honestly don't blame these folks for dumping the dollar. I really don't.
Well, you know what, caller, to take it just a tad deeper or a couple levels deeper, isn't it the ultimate now, with really nothing except the fact that we have the ability to assure the transportation, unfettered, unmolested transportation of oil and energy. That's what's kind of backing the U.S. dollar. But essentially, nothing is behind the U.S. dollar. As you said, nothing is behind. So it becomes the ultimate talisman, if you will, for the globalists. So instead of it representing gold and silver or something precious as it once did, it's just a talisman. It's something that they say is worth something, and we agree to it, and we're handling their talisman among us. Think about that, folks. So that's a couple levels deeper.
It's monopoly money, and the only thing that says it has value is that when we're playing Monopoly, you're willing to follow the rules of the game, and you're willing to rent me a hotel when I land on Boardwalk for $4,000. You know, that's all it is. I mean, basically, it's because when I take that buck down to Starbucks or wherever I go to get a cup of Joe, they say, well, that's $2, and we'll take your 2 pieces of paper that you have that represent that $2, because there is no value to it anymore. There never really was a lot of value to it other than the full faith and credit, and we had the petrodollar backing it up that kept it strong. What really surprises me, I'm pretty heavy into silver and metals, is that we're seeing, I saw silver yesterday drop below, gosh, I think it was at 1640.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah, what's up with that? On what planet does this make sense with gold and silver, the prices there, especially silver?
I don't know, but I tell you what makes sense to me is I'm going to go take a few $100 out of my bank account tomorrow, and I'm going to buy silver, because I just find this mind-boggling that, you know, we see the stock market puke, 200 plus points today, I believe, and we're seeing silver, well, it came back up a little bit, and gold down, $1,200, give or take. Something not right, man. Something not right with this. Either they're manipulating it down to purchase it with a bunch of greenbacks, or there's something else going on that I can't figure out. I mean, you know, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and this is beyond three-dimensional chess to me. I can just look at it from the oil industry because I work in it, and I can kind of see the inside and how things work and how things are manipulated. But the rest of the puzzle is not. I can't see it, you know. So I don't know what's going on. There's something going on, and you know, I kind of agree with you guys on some part that, you know, a lot of this crap that's coming up now is they're just using it to cover up their goof offs and their screw ups and the stuff that's really going on in the world. I kind of think that's what this Ebola crap is, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to amount to a hill of beans, but that's just me.
Very good, my friend. Well, God bless you. Thanks for the great call, and stay safe out there.
Hey, thank you very much.
Just keep on keeping on, brother. All right. Thanks for the call. Very interesting. And I want to thank, at this point, Bob and Maggie. Thank you both for sending me a very great document, George Soros and Ebola research information. Actually, much research was done by a friend of theirs, and we're not hearing a lot on the mainstream media, of course. By the way, I also have to give props to Alex Jones, who today called Bathhouse Barry Barack Hussein Ebola. I think that, you know, that combined with Renegade in Chief, well, how fitting is that? And folks, and let me throw another thing out there, and we'll take another call here. You know, is it, for example, are we watching Barack Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Ebola, the renegade-in-chief, the lawless one? Are we watching him be this, to superintend, to manage, to oversee everything that's taking place, including the infection of the United States by Ebola? What sense does it make, folks, to keep accepting flights from that part of the world? Other countries have shut the flights down. In fact, by allowing the flights to continue, are we not in violation of our own laws? Yet who among the bureaucrats and politicians is speaking out against this?
And before we go back to the calls, I just want to, I saw some questions in the chat room. When are we talk about the satanic agenda behind the New World Order? We did kind of switch gears, not at the last moment, but spending the day together, and have prepared for getting into this. We have sound clips and a whole bunch of, how the satanic agenda is behind the New World Order in every facet of society, from entertainment to politics to banking to internationalism. And we do have, as I said, sound clips and information lined up. We kind of switched gears here towards getting closer to the program, talking with different people and, seeing the different news stories that came out. But we did want to hear from you guys, and we can talk about this. We can talk about what you guys think about this, and we have our information we can still get into. But we're going to continue to take calls in this hour, and maybe in the last hour we will just cover that. But we haven't forgot about it. We do have the information and material to cover. We just, as we said, kind of switched gears as we saw some other developing stories that needed to be talked about.
But Joe, I think, too, a lot of the first, and perhaps some people joined us late, but I think a lot of what we talked about does reflect the satanic agenda of the New World Order with respect to Ebola, the significance of Dallas. Okay, was that lost? Did I not explain myself on that? The significance of Dallas? Why Dallas? Well, you've got the satanic Luciferian agenda behind the New World Order. Look at 1963. Kennedy was taken out. There was a coup. I mean, there is a lot of symbolism here, occult, Luciferian, satanic symbolism with this Ebola situation. Do you think, for example, traveling on 9/19, that was just purely coincidental? Again, Dallas, coincidence, being the decapitation of our nation's government 51 years ago now, really 50 years ago still. And 50 years prior to that, the decapitation of our monetary system in 1913. Do you think that the Malaysian air flights, do you think that of course, is not satanic in nature? Of course it is. The Malaysian Air Flight 17. We've got, so I do think that we have, I don't think we're that far off the mark, and we're willing to take your calls.
And we're going to take your calls, but let me do this. Let me play a couple sound clips and just explain a few things real quick, just to lay some groundwork. We're going to listen to a clip, about a 30-second clip from Katy Perry about her singing career.
You're doing really well now, but didn't you release a CD like almost 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I released a gospel record when I was 15 because I grew up in, a household where all I ever did was listen to gospel music, and my parents are both traveling ministers, and so I kind of sang about, what was going on in my life at 15, and that's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music, but it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
All right, that's Katy Perry.
Sold my soul to the devil. So I sold my soul to the devil.
Well, hold on. We have more. Here's Bob Dylan.
You're still out here doing these songs. You're still on tour.
I do, but I don't take it for granted.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with you know, with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
Bob Dylan has been nominated.
All right, there's just two short examples out of many choices I had to download of entertainers in particular admitting to selling their soul for fame and fortune. Now, I'm just going to lay out this groundwork, and then we're going to go back to the calls. If Satan and his demonic influences have such a stronghold and have such a complete control mechanism over entertainers, actors, musicians, in order for their fame and fortune and in Satan's benefit for the content they put out, what kind of control over important things like monetary policy, banking, political influence do you think there is? What kind of deals do those people make, the heads of banking, heads of political offices in all countries? The UN, the World Bank, the IMF. If there's such and people, you know, usually along monetary lines, they say the $20 million singers or the $25 million singers, $30 million actors, all have to, you know, take these pledges with the devil in order for their fame and fortune. What kind of control mechanisms do these evil principalities and powers of darkness have over important institutions that really run people's lives? But we're going to go back to calls, and that's just a few of the clips and things we had. And we can get into the quotes from, you know, the Rockefellers, all the internationalists who are behind the control mechanisms of political and banking institutions today, pushing a utopian one world order, a new world order out of chaos, the order out of chaos, and its origins, and their battle with Christians and followers of Jesus Christ.
And before you go to the calls, I did want to say this. If you look at, well, Paul McGuire spoke about it, others have spoken about it, the secret occult plans for America. What we're seeing unfold today fit right in with the secret occult plans for America. America is to become the new Atlantis and the center of the New World Order. And folks, if you understand that, and Joe touched on it too, about the winter storm names, everything is so blatant and in your face. I just wanted to mention that. We are, in fact, being set up for being the new Atlantis, and of course that's not a good thing. We know that in a pre-Adamic mindset, that there in Plato, of course, the Republic, Tom Horn talks about it, Chris Putnam talks about it, the David Flynn collection of books. If you were fortunate enough to get in on that offering, you can read about all of this, but really here the bottom line is we're entering into this, or we're full into, I shouldn't say entering, we're full into a Luciferian era. And one component, by the way, a lot of big-name Christian preachers or celebrities, and Paul McGuire mentions this, they use very well-known behavior patterns which are known inside the neurological scientific community. To put it just flat out blunt, they're Manchurian Candidate preachers, for example, and their worshipers don't even know it. The net effect, however, is that you've got the systematic dismantling of the biblical church through scientific occult forces. Having said that, that same template applies to Katy Perry, the singer-songwriter, singers and celebrities, as well as politicians. So all of this, from Ebola to the diving doves, to the jewelry, to the symbology, we're not that far off the mark, Joe.
No, and I have some more quotes from this Carl Payne's book on spiritual warfare I'd like to read, but we're going to go back to the phones right now. Maybe we'll get into that in the third hour a little bit, as we do have a lot of callers. We're going to go to area code 847 next. 847, thanks for holding. 847, thanks for holding.
Hello. Hello.
Good evening. Good evening.
How you guys doing?
Good. We got a little bit of an echo in the background.
Okay, how's this?
Let's see.
I just wanted to
Go ahead.
Hi. I was just listening to the show yesterday. You guys had the caller talk about the once saved, always saved. Later we talked about Katy Perry's Ring, the falling dove, and then, of course, the Ebola was the main topic. And I just found it interesting how all those topics actually tied together when you brought it through Scripture, and I just want to share that with you guys. I also had a question for you. Basically, the once saved, always saved, we want people to believe in the New World Order. We want people to be aware of fallen angels, the Nephilim, etc. And we better not think that, the devil hasn't tinkered with doctrine that we believe too. And, once saved, always saved, pre-tribulation, rapture, all these doctrines have been tinkered with. And I was thinking about it, and Katy Perry, her father was a minister, and as that clip you guys just played showed, that she herself was a professing Christian. And I think it's interesting because the fallen dove, the dove in Scripture is a symbol of peace and the Holy Spirit. And here it's falling, so that's, the falling of peace, the falling of the Holy Spirit. And so here we have Katy Perry, probably a professing Christian. Maybe she was one, we don't know. But once saved, always saved. Well, she definitely isn't saved anymore. And if we think about Ebola and the falling dove, the loss of peace here, what does Ebola represent for us? The peace of our nation is really just deteriorated when these things come to our shore, when we have the beheadings and all the stuff going on. So it just ties in beautifully.
It does tie together, and I'll just say this: there is this duality, the principle of duality or dualism. You're looking at the perversion, for example, of the dove being used now by Aleister Crowley and others to represent something totally a polar opposite of that Christian, true Christian principle.
Absolutely. So they just the way they tied in, and I also I had a question, kind of tying in with the Ebola thing here, and the vaccine, the mark of the beast. Could it be a vaccine? And my question kind of goes with this, just something for the listeners to think about is: could the mark of the beast be deceptively deployed to the people, or is it going to be something that has to be taken knowingly? I've kind of believe that it has to be taken. Yeah. Is this going to be sneaked by us? Or?
No, I specifically talked to at length with Pastor Langford about this,
and the Bible's very clear about it too.
Right, and Pastor Langford was very exceptionally clear about it in our conversations. And anytime we have a doctrinal question, Pastor Langford is our go-to guy. Okay, now having said that, Pastor Langford, he had said this: you cannot be deceived, tricked, or in other words, you've got to take the mark knowingly, and you've got to swear the allegiance to someone other than our Lord and Savior. So no, you're not. There are rules that have to be followed. Even Lucifer, the devil, has to follow the rules. So you can't be tricked. No, it's like somebody giving you a glass of orange juice after you give blood, and it's actually vodka. No. That's not going to happen. That cannot happen. It's got to be taken knowingly, and that's the way it is. So.
And it will be taken in the heart before it's taken physically.
Right.
That's
metaphorically speaking. Many people have already taken the mark of the beast by rejecting God and Jesus as our Savior.
Right.
Well, and so they have
not physically taken
the mark.
Not
physically, but as I said, it starts as a matter of the heart first.
Right. It's a process that I think a lot of Americans and even the world is going through right now, just the conditioning, psychological and spiritually, and they don't even realize those compromises they've been making have been changing them. And, you wake up one day and you realize, wow, look how far I've gotten. Look how far away we've gotten.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to leave you guys with a scripture, if that's all right.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just want to leave you guys with a scripture that it's from Isaiah chapter 8, verse 12. It says, "Say not a conspiracy concerning all whereof this people shall say a conspiracy, neither fear you their fear, nor be in dread thereof. Jehovah of hosts, him shall you sanctify. Let him be your fear, let him be your dread." And I just love that verse because, they were there was a conspiracy, but they were making a big deal out of it instead of putting God first. And I think it's just important right now as all these things come ahead and come to a point here that we know they're there and we're aware of them and we share that truth, but we just need to continue to put Jehovah, put God in the forefront and let him be our fear, and we'll be seen through all of it.
Very well said. All right, my brother. Thank you very much for the call. God bless.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we're going to move on to our international line. We have an international caller. I don't know if there's a first number. It looks like country code 44, but there could be another number in front of it. International caller, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Am I on the line?
Yes, you're live.
Hi, this is Cameron from London. How are you guys?
Very well, and you're up pretty late or up pretty early, not sure which. But thanks for listening. Okay.
No problem. I've been listening to you for a while now, and mostly through the archives, but mainly because you posed a challenge yesterday, and I was intrigued by the challenge since I know a lot of Katy Perry's work. I was intrigued by what you guys have said about the publication. Now, I can go into details, but if I can give a minute description of the page you're talking about. Okay. It would help if, Doug and Joe, it would help if you have the thing in front of you so you can follow the explanation as to what are the different codes that are given in this page. If you look for Katy Perry, Bazaar, and pick up the one that is in red. If you're ready, I can go on talking about it.
Ready? Got it right here in front of us. Yep.
Okay. Now, you have to know in the background of Katy, she is basically she has taken the role of the spokesman to the New Order. Anything she does, like Raw, like E.T., like Unconditionally, everything she does, it's basically describing the plan that's going on. And basically you need to figure out what part of the plan she is now exposing to the world. She is the spokesman, and every other artist, for example, whoever does Hannah Montana, whatever, each one of them take their own part within the definition of what they are expecting from the people. So some of them are to do with teenagers, others are to do with the those who are expecting to do things like going to sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all that stuff. Each artist has been given the specific task. And you know the part of the artist by the fact that they are not going anymore on tours, and they are mainly relying on the YouTube or whatever to start for their listeners to pick up their actions. In this case, Katy is taking on the role of giving an order, and I can explain what that order is. On the first hand, it's not a dove. A dove does not have a pointy, split tail. What you're seeing here is a swift. A swift is a fast bird that has to take its action very fast, and it's coming down so it has to happen very quickly. She is grasping her thumb with the fingers, the long one with the long nail, touching her neck at the bottom of right side of the neck. And basically, if you look from where it's supposed to start from the left part of the neck going down onto the right. That motion from left to right at the bottom of the neck, what do you think that means, Joe or Doug?
You go ahead.
What you do is you either it's basically to say to cut, to terminate, to stop.
Okay.
So that basically is saying this is an order for you to cut, terminate, to stop, or to kill.
Okay.
The rest is who is it supposed to be the order for? What is it that's supposed to be? The whole theme is red. It's shown as pink, but it's actually red. Because they cannot show red, that red comes out very obvious. So they have to go into a more feminine one, which is red. And you know this also by the flowers that she's wearing, which is basically when you go to a funeral, you have the flowers. Now, who is it they're talking about? You can see also it's to do with death by the fact that there is a banner going from top on the right hand. The top normally is supposed to be black, but they cannot put black because that would be too obvious. The point where it says the new boot and rag. So it's talking about the death of somebody. Now, if you figure out who it is, we have two main people, so two main issues. We're talking about Ebola and Syria, correct?
That would be correct, yeah, yes.
Yes. Now, in Syria, who would be the main person who leads Syria?
Well, it would be Bashar al-Assad.
Right. So now look at yes, correct. Now look at the banner, and you will see that her face comes out, covering the ZA and leaving BAAR. Now, in most other, I went in and saw what it is that they are seeing. You know, that magazine. Do they show Bazaar at the front with all the letters showing, or do they show at the the model appearing at the front with some of the letters at the back? Only on very few occasions do the model come out and the letters go back. Most of them, even on her last one, December 2010, the banners or the name of the title was coming out. But this one, the title has been brought back. Now, if you replace that with the words, what you see in that, it is the top of her head has taken the two letters. In the top of her head, there are two things. One is, it's her hair, and basically it's shiny. So it's a shiny hair. Take S from shiny and hair from H from hair. What do you have? SH. What do you come out of this?
Well, Bashar.
Right. So let's go back. Then go down on the right-hand side. Now, remembering that Katie is representing all that's supposed to be disclosed, this is her prerogative. Katy Perry on Love, I'm talking about right-hand side near the top, right. On Love, therapy, and being the boss. We know that they are their boss. They need to have a therapeutic situation to fix the issue, and this has to be followed with love, meaning without any order, without any delay. So basically saying you must follow this. Love what we're telling you, means don't call us back on it. This is a fixing, and you have to do it because we are the boss. The bottom part now goes into what is it? It talks about get sexy hair now. Now, get is what's supposed to be done because two words which are highlighted, sexy and hair, that was supposed to go into the missing letters at the top. Take the first letter of sexy, it's S. Take the first letter of hair, it's H. We have again SH for Bashar. It has to say, get Bashar now. That's what it means. The next one is you go down. You have falls, best, buys, the ultimate something, something. That's something that is not important because
shopping
they put it too much. Yes.
Yeah, the ultimate shopping issue.
Yes, it basically says fall, to ignore the S apostrophe after the S. What is the full name of Bashar? Bashar Assad, yes?
Correct.
Change the D to a T, because it sounds the same. Use his initial, B, Assad. So this is talking about fall of B, Assad, best, fall of best. And so it's talking about fall of Bashar Assad. And then buys, you need to listen to it, which is buy to means goodbye. And they sometimes use certain words, but you need to listen to it phonetically, not literally. So it says there is a fall of Bashar Assad, and he has to say goodbye. Now, on the left-hand side, then, it describes how to do it. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Right.
This
on
is
the left-hand side, on the left-hand side, it talks about style at every price. Style or still, it means basically you have to do it at every price. The next one after it is fashion that works for you. The word fashion, if you look at her other one in 2010, the fashion has, on the O part, has a marker like a crosshair into her heart. So that means action. Fashion means do it, the way that it works for you. Then the next one under it, the must-have scarf. The scarf is actually looks like an E at the end. The way they've done it, they just pulled a little bit, so it's scare. So they basically want the must-have scare. So there is a scare that needs to be done, that must be done. The next one, I have to be politically correct. I'll say it, but please do not. I have, in order to clarify it, I have to say the words. The word, for Black Americans, the old way, those who are racist, don't call them black or whatever. They call them nigger. So remember that word, and I apologize if that offends, but I'm trying to explain something here. Remember that these guys do not like the American Africans. They regard them as still the old colonial ways. So look you nigger, or look younger instantly. So it means it's talking to whoever is the current boss where you are. And it's basically say, look into this now. This is basically an order. Do we know that that is the case? Do we know does she actually give herself authority? Yes. Where does she give herself authority to represent them? It's in her earrings. And the earrings is the Kabbalah sign. It's got the shield with the two upside-down triangles.
Very good analysis, in my view, and one can argue that the words may not mean anything. It's a positioning and what have you. But I think as long as we're on the path of investigation, I think that you did just a fantastic assessment of the cover. I mean, especially too the. What would you call it? The pall across the top right. I like that. I like your assessment of this, and the fact that, and frankly, I did not really give too much notice to the letters, with the exception of the top headline covering bizarre, meaning Bashar. So, very good. Wow.
Okay. Now, I can go on with regard to what you're seeing in Texas. If giving you something. Okay. Please follow a video called Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr, Carr. Have you heard of this gentleman?
Absolutely. I've got his book right here. Whoop, there it is, right here. Yep.
Right. If you go onto YouTube and Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr, it basically speaks at length about his experience as to what happened on the attempt of the Third World War during 1950s to beginning of 60s. Do you remember that?
I do, yes.
Right. Now, what you have to remember is the plan over there was to clear out the Caribbeans from their inhabitants in order for them to use it as a safe haven. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does.
Right. Now, if we are under the impression that we are in the Third World War, then we should be able to expect that the same plan should be reenacted, corrected to the current structure of the of the maps that are currently there, and slight change in locations. Now, the Caribbeans are in the sea, and basically they've tried that. The book explains God intervened that they could not use the Caribbeans to sustain themselves. Now, we also know now that a lot of the elite have retreated to their safe havens.
Right.
We know the safe havens are in the central part or northern part of America, and basically they need to start living there. Now, you have a main issue of the population that are there that needs to be offloaded to adjacent areas. The population has to, where they are going and where they are staying as safe havens, they need to offset the populations away from where they are, so they do not be bogged down by all the militias that go around them as things start falling down.
Correct.
Now, since they've decided that the Central and northern part of South America is going to be used, they need to get rid of the most aggressive people out of their areas. Now, guess where is the most opportunistic place to offload all the prisoners, all their gangsters and everything? Where would you think they would want to push them in order to have a win-win scenario?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to myself here. I've been following you. I could take the credit, but go ahead and finish your thought. You go ahead and break the news. I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Right. Basically, what they need to do is they want to have a double whammy. The first one is they want to clear out their areas from people which could cause disruption to them because they are militarized. So they want to get rid of the youngsters and want to get rid of the thugs. And the best way to do it is to push it somewhere where they want to destabilize. And guess what they go through? The corridor. The corridor goes through Mexico, and the corridor goes to the southern parts of the United States, including Dallas.
Including Dallas. Okay. I see. Okay. Yep. So
all of what you're seeing with the southern border being open, it is not just to stabilize the U.S., but also to enable the pressure of people being displaced to be pushed somewhere else, where they have a sucking mechanism pulling the people into the vacuum, which is the U.S., to enable them to have their own space for themselves, which is the southern part of the Central America, the northern part of of South America. Does that make sense?
Well, sure. And you know, oh my goodness, perhaps a place like, I don't know, Paraguay, where George H.W. Bush has 100,000 acres there in Paraguay, north part of South America.
Yes, unfortunately, the U.S. has been just regarded as a dumping ground for these guys. They would rather have a double whammy against you as opposed to, send them back yet to the UK and various other places, because they have run out of these places. And and this is the kind of, and the reason I'm saying it is because I'm not hearing anybody talking about this, and I'm just sort of saying, if you think you're in the Third World War and you know what they've tried before, would they try it again? And if they did it, where are they now hunkering down? Where would they want the people to go? Follow this logic. You will find that all what you're saying there. And that's why every kind of sick person they are sending through, every kind of despot they are sending through, and you guys are being occupied by saying all this, sickness and all that stuff, and they are bringing the economy and this to do with the election. Nothing to do with that. It's all to do with the fact.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you said that. It's got to say that what's taking place is for purely political means or for votes. To me, is to minimize and what's really taking place. So you're right on the money. Go ahead and continue, sir.
Okay. Now, I'll leave it there because I think people will need to research back again. Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr, and people need to sort of research. Because if I go further on this, basically a lot of people will not follow what we're talking about. And
absolutely.
Right. So if we go to the next one, which is to do with oil prices, has been discussed, why oil prices have been put so low. What we have to remember is the oil price, we don't need energy. We have already the technology that we can use to generate energy and everything else. And therefore, we say, why are they keeping oil? It's because oil is to be used to manage the economies until the point when they will be collapsing or whatever. Now, the fact that oil price is used everywhere around the world, it means that if you want to control income for certain countries whose main income is heavily dependent on oil, the fact that you bring it up and down, you're able to manage their income. Now, if you leave the oil as it is compared to the inflation against the US dollar, the oil prices have to go up. But if they go up, then each of those countries will be more independent than necessary, and you are not able then to force them into a conflict. This includes the Middle East, this includes Russia, China, even the West, everything else. And basically, to bring the price down still allows the West to not need to print a lot of dollars to get the oil, and also it ensures that the oil-producing countries have less income to be able to manage through all the roadblocks that they put to them to stop them from able to maneuver across all these lockings and credit lockings in trade is taking place. Does that make sense?
It does.
What I'm saying is not to look at it on a buy or sell, but look at it more as in control of the flow into the coffers of each of those countries, allowing them to be squeezed or alleviated according to which side of the fence they are. Does that make sense?
Okay. That addition to, yes, by adding that, it clarifies it for people, I think, a lot better. Yes, absolutely. Very interesting analysis.
Okay. I've spoken a lot. I have more, but I know you have others on the line. Do you have any questions before I hang off?
No question, but I just want to say thank you for rising to the challenge that we tossed out yesterday. This is exactly what we were looking for in terms of a comprehensive analysis of that image and everything it represents. And you even went further, and I've got to give you a lot of credit for the research, the knowledge, and it's fantastic. Just a fantastic analysis. Now, the only thing I might disagree with you on, not disagree necessarily, but we can agree that that ring is a trident type of an image. Dove or not, it's kind of a trident image, if you will.
Yes. Well, I saw it as I couldn't see it as Dove because I've never seen in all her profiles and videos and publications, she's never had this symbol before. Now, then I went in and looked at two things, and I said, okay, if it's to do with Syria, then these two things will have to go. Which airline has this kind of stuff? And guess what? The Syrian airline has something like this, but going up, not coming down. Which presidency have the seal that looks like this? And the Syrian presidency has a seal similar to this. So I'm saying, okay, at least on these two ones, where if you want to identify the country through the airlines, this is what they have. If you want to identify the country through the presidential seal, the Syrian presidential seal is like us going up. But then I know from the fact that they want to perform this action and everything around it, it talks about now. Right. The only thing I can see there is swift. And that does match a swift with a tail that has a split tail.
Interesting. Interesting and very very observant.
What makes it worse for me reading this is the fact that you will find that the policies going forward from your administration will no longer be a coherent policy. You will see a strong drive to activate this and achieve this, regardless of what the public opinion is. So my advice to you guys would be to adjust and find out what is the best way to go about it, other than the public pressure. What is it the way that's most effective to delay, disable this action, which they have been told to do? I wish you all the best.
Okay, so just in closing, we're not wrong based on your observations, investigation, research, and analysis. By looking at Katy Perry, the spokesman, the front person for this Luciferian agenda, we're not wrong necessarily in pointing all this out, looking at this image, looking at this publication, saying, "Wait, could there be a message here?" I think you're.
Yeah. Yes. I need to ask you to advise your contributors to start more looking into Katy Perry's videos. They are very, very, very informative. Okay. Can I just have a couple of minutes more?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is Katy Perry there? Why is she explaining this? You have said correctly that the devil has rules. That is correct. The devil has rules. But it is not the fact that he cannot affect people and try to force them. He can. But it does not fulfill his objective. His objective is to accuse humanity in front of God, in front of the seat of judgment. And the only way an accuser can be accused is if he committed a crime. Now, what the rules are given to the elite is not a crime, rules given by God to the devil. It's the rules given by the devil to his minions in order to fulfill what he pledged to God, that he accuses them, and therefore they have to commit a crime. And the only way you can commit a crime is with intention, because without intention you cannot be regarded as guilty. So for a guilty verdict to take place in any crime, you have to have the intention to do it, knowing what the full punishment is. And what the elites are doing are fulfilling the part where they are making you aware that you are committing a wrong. That wrong which you are participating in, that opens the door. Not the fact that God has given the rules. God has said that I will not punish those who are not guilty. Those who are not guilty means that those who do know that the guilty people are the ones that know that they have committed a crime. So what they are doing, the elite, are facilitating the crime with our full knowledge. The devil will not have fulfilled his part if he lets his minions force people into doing anything, because then all that will do is if they are killed, then they become martyrs and they will flee from his accusation. And therefore, the more people get killed without them actually being in the sin that they know about, the more that they do this, the more he has sort of proved his point. And he needs to sort of keep his minion in straight line saying, you shall advertise these things, otherwise it is pointless. Now, the problem they are doing, like with these things, with what you're seeing in Katy Perry, they are borderline between telling people and not telling people. And it seems that at the moment the mixture is a little bit vague. For them, in order for it to work, they have to make it less vague. But at the moment they are shy. They're waiting for a point where they are more in control, and they will start saying it in your face, and you will accept it, and therefore you will be committed to judgment, and therefore you will be committed to the destruction of humanity. And what the devil has accused humanity in front of God is they are not worthy. Everything that's happening is to show that humanity is a failure in every aspect. And if you take this point, humanity is a failure, and investigatively look at everything the devil is doing, it falls exactly across all areas as is taking place. Humanity is a failure. So they are trying to make humanity despair against humanity. Humans, they're doing everything possible to ensure that humans hate humans in order for them to fall into the laps of the devil. Once he's done that, then he can say, okay, he can get rid of all of them altogether, and says humanity is, even his minions, and said, now I've proved my point, you can all kill yourself, I don't care anymore, I've made my point to God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and you explained that very, very well, very nicely articulated.
Okay.
All right.
I wish you a good night, and God bless.
Thank
God
you so
bless
much.
You. Live from London, England. God bless. Wow, folks. What a great analysis. And you might think, well,
I was on the edge of my seat during that whole call. I'm going to listen to that again. And caller, if you're still listening, if you can email us, if we can isolate your call, just even put it on YouTube separately. What you echoed was very important, and the points you made were very articulate and so interesting to see an aspect, different aspects, the way you look at things, the way you explained and described things that I wouldn't have seen by looking at it, and many others thought that was a very important call. So send us an email at studio@hagmannandhagmann.com. Fantastic call, fantastic analysis, and once again, that was a caller from London. We appreciate you staying up or getting up early and listening to our show and contributing as you did. That was just a fantastic call. We're going to go to the top of the hour break that we're late for. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the third and final hour of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're going to go right back to the phones and to our intelligence insider, W. Welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, it's great talking to you here. I'm impressed think of last night with our caller in the third hour and the things that she pointed out, how much depth there is in this audience. And it's just beautiful to see how people are paying attention within this audience and really helping all of us. She made a point last night that might have gotten past us if people like her weren't in this audience and being sharp and, you know, standing up in the assembly and making a point of order for all of us to pay attention to so that we didn't miss something important. And then in the course of the conversation that we had at the end of the show last night and drawing a couple of things together, this gentleman in the UK, on, you know, halfway across the planet, is able to come in and add so much rich detail in the analysis and draw attention to things that would probably have slipped by most of us. But he brings these things to focus for us so that we can see them, that we might not have otherwise seen or understood, and in such a intriguing way, such a compelling way. And, you know, we have these people in this audience that are so good, and to get the chance to, you know, come together and point these things out for all of us, my gosh, it was just fantastic. It's really important that we tap this audience from time to time and get those assists from these really experts. Because our gal last night, in her own way, she was on point and was an expert and brought our attention to a detail that we needed to have. And then just the observations, you know, that are thrown in our face with these magazine covers and the people that are by choice by these Illuminatus given, you know, the neon light positions in the society around us to send messages to us like what is there in the Harper's Bazaar cover, and then to have some assistance from somebody else who is alert, paying attention, has obviously been looking at this both with other people's input and with his own analysis to so quickly and precisely and efficiently draw our attention to all these little details and what they are trying to portend, say, message us, so that we can, you know, understand those signals, intercept those signals, and not be asleep at the critical moment, or not be naive or babes when we really are battle. And one of the things that guys who've been in combat will tell you, when you've been in the jungle for a bit, when you've been in country for a while, your senses become keyed up to where guys will tell you they could smell the enemy 100 or 200 yards away. Just like an animal in the forest, you know, gets tuned in that the hunters are there. You get little teeny instinctual things, and you know something's not right. And so we're being hunted by these New World Orders, these Agenda 21ers, these Illuminatus, these Satanists.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, we are being hunted. Yes.
You need to get your ears perked up, pay attention, and not be head down and feeding at the moment that heart shot could be coming for you. This was, in fact, what was impressing me. As you recall, Doug, we had the conversation over a year ago, well over a year ago, when I was thinking about the Kennedy assassination, and that there was this moment coming, and I had this, you know, visualization of this 50 years after the fact,
that it was no longer just the head of the country. Now it was going for the heart of the country. It was going for us. We are the target now. 50 years ago it was Kennedy. And if you say that with 1913 and the passage of the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax, that they gutted what was America, a gut shot, that with the Kennedy assassination, that was a headshot, and the very symbolic is to the leadership of our country. And now this heart shot in the same place, right there in Dallas, that coup de grace. Because one of the things that your caller just now raised, and you and I have spoken about quite a bit, Central America is, and South America is the fallback position for these people as they take the rest of the world down. And so south of the equator, they will be there.
Right.
And I can tell you of numerous communities that have been set up down there that are being built out that people from all over the world are going to, and you just go, really? And he makes the point, which we've discussed previously. I was speaking about this, really almost 5 years ago. If you remember, we were talking even 3 and 4 years ago about these things people were calling concentration camps and holding detention centers, etc., being built across the south and southwest of the United States. And people are like, what's this all about? Well, in a sense, these people are being enticed and driven by the violence in their own countries going north to come here. And as they get here, what did we say about the Titanic? The Titanic, the unsinkable ship, everybody once on it. On the Titanic, what did they do? They packed the steerage, the lower decks, with cheap passengers because the liner had not been completely sold out. So in those last days and weeks, they gave very cheap tickets to fill out the rest of the steerage below decks and overpack the boat. And so now here we are in this Titanic symbology, and they're filling out the rest of the ship. The dollar is going to continue to strengthen and continue to attract people here as a refuge, the unsinkable. But then what happens with this Ebola? I don't think this is the final straw. I don't think this is the big end one, but it portends to this rest of the story, and the clock is ticking. And that's the way we need to look at this and understand. We are the one, this is the heart shot. We're in the sniper's crosshairs. We're in the kill zone. It was Kennedy 50 years ago in the kill zone. Symbolically.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very, very well framed, as we spoke about earlier off air. And I could not have said it any better than that. And you know what? Let me just ask you this. If to an average person, W, we tossed down the October 20th issue of Harper's Bazaar with Katy Perry on the cover, and we start getting into what the gentleman from the UK got into. Boy, most, in quotation, sane, normal, rational people would call for our commitment, wouldn't they? Because they're not seeing what we're seeing.
Well, let's just put it this way. We're being laughed at all the time by friends, relatives, people at the coffee pot at work. I understand that. They are of a mind. Most of the people around the people in your audience are of a mind because they have been programmed. We have to be careful not to ascribe
total evil to people around us who don't get it. They are subject to the programming of all the media, all the peer pressure, going back to even the words that are used in our everyday conversation. If we say the word conspiracy, the instant next word that everyone in your audience is trained to add on to it is theory, 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 theory. Say conspiracy theory. Yeah, but it might be a real conspiracy theory. It's instant. You're so programmed to not be able to do critical analysis. You're only trained to process and come to pre-programmed conclusions based on groupthink. That's what your schools are doing to your kids. That's what the media is doing. It's programming everyone to, in lockstep, do what everyone else says to do. Go the way everyone else says to go. But your audience is the Mavericks, the Wildcats, the Wild Cards, who haven't quite been able to be programmed in so far because there's still enough God built in wild in them that they're not going that way that easily. Somewhere in their history, in their genetics, in their parentage, in their community, in their own self-reading and learning, they have not quite drunk the Kool-Aid to where they're completely subject to the programming and given over to it. And they realize something is wrong here. And I say the correct next word at this point in our history is we're not conspiracy theorists. And our work within our own communities, families, friends is not about theorizing whether or not a conspiracy or groups of conspiracies that are intertwined, exist against us. Our real job now, just as this gentleman from the UK so beautifully did for us, is to analyze the conspiracies that exist against us. That cover on that magazine, prominently displayed on newsstands and in grocery stores around the country and around the world, is there for a reason. There is intricate planning and scripting that took place in order to do the messaging that's in that cover for their purposes. And they're subliminal to most of us, but to some, they're not subliminal at all. Because why? Because as a code breaker, I have certain things that I know that lead me to the code that's hidden within other random numbers, random messaging, as I go back to the silver code. Of all the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of numbers, certain keys will bang, get my attention. And then I have to go, oh, hold on, let me check. Oh, nope, nothing there. Oh, hold on, there it is. And these were in other markets all through. That was just that it was so unique that it popped up in that particular market when it did. And as I said, it's a quarterly code. Before the quarter ended, the response was coming. Get in position before, because now it's already starting to turn. Now, those are manipulated markets. And it could very well be some time before we see the radical spiking that I expect to see, but that wasn't what they said. They didn't give me a direction or other information, just that they were entering now that market and they had to lock in their positions. So we know that even with this coding, say with the Perry cover, that it's communicating messages, how quickly it has to happen, what it may be, but to people on the inside, they may have other pieces of information that they're working with, so we're reading somebody else's mail. And there may be other communications that she provides the timing, let's say, and some of how the action takes place, but they also individually have some information about what they're supposed to do or when or what their intent or mission is in a compartmentalized way. So the devil is communicating through these images, through this symbology, to his minions, and in different factions, in different groups. It may there may be multiple messages hidden in something like that they all receive. And then it's not just one person. She may be a primary person who's doing it, but as your caller also related, there's lots of other players who will mimic even the messaging she's doing and convey it in a broader sense, because in part, this is about saturation. It's about heat soak. We're filling the cup, if you will. And so there's a certain soak time for this messaging to get out into our society thoroughly enough. And as he says so correctly, this is about them making it easier and easier to do what they do, not just hidden, not just covertly or subtly, but overtly and for all to view and, celebrate, if you will. That which was hidden is becoming less and less hidden. It's becoming more and more blatant and obvious and saturated, permeating through all of our lives and being and existence, to where you can't go to the grocery store to get a candy bar without seeing this symbology, without being exposed to it. You can't pick up a cereal box. You can't open your door and take the mail out of your box without being subjected to, exposed to these messages, which are becoming less and less subtle and more overt. They're telling you where they're going. They're practically yelling it in your psychological ears, your psyche's ears. They're screaming it at you. And that's the moment we're in. But again, and I hope this caller that you just had on will convey privately contact information for him. I think his insights are something that we need to have the benefit of out into the future, because he certainly is paying attention. Whatever places he's going to for some of his insight, we need to understand that he's got his head turned on and has some really valuable ways of seeing things and conveying them. I enjoyed hearing him convey these things because I thought he did a very good job of progressing through his various insights. He mentioned he had more. I'd love to hear those. I think he's done a great job, and it should serve as a note to all of your listeners, just like our gal last night in the third hour with what she said. Everybody, it's right there in the scriptures, everybody comes ready with something important to share, something to add to the group. Not everybody gets tapped on the shoulder by the Holy Spirit to present all the time, but they come ready, and then those that have exactly the right thing. You might have 5 people with the same message that they're there to present to the assembly, but there's one person that has some little tiny nugget or inflection in the way that they are ready to share that night, that they're the right one. Others know it in their spirit. It reconfirms that they're in tune with what God's doing, with the move of God's Spirit, so they're not hurt that they weren't the one that was picked to share. But the Holy Spirit, may pick just the right person who has just the right inflection that hits a certain segment of the audience that has to hear it that night. And so everybody coming prepared. The other thing is that it helps us mentally
and in a spiritual body sense to kind of measure, am I in tune with what God's doing? And you get reconfirmation with a gentleman like this gentleman, or with a gal like our gal last night, that yes, we're on the right track. For me personally, I took both of these callers as confirmation that I'm hearing something from God, that I'm hearing something from the Holy Spirit, that I'm seeing, that I'm getting urgings that match what God's saying and wants to do in the broader body. If I hadn't heard his call tonight, I might have been concerned, well, am I, on a different track, or am I not quite, in tune with what God needs to point out? Because everybody else is just a bola, 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 bola. But to then bring this thread through all of these things and tie them together, it, to me, told me that we're in tune here as a group, those listeners in your show, that we're on a path. We're not off base. And if there's naysayers around us, all of your listeners should take some comfort, some reassurance, some inner girding, strength from the fact that, no, there's others that are hearing the same way, and there is a move of God, and if the people around me might not hear that, it's not that they're evil or that they're bad or, whatever, or we should be in opposition to them. We just need to take strength from the fact that we're getting a true word, and that those people in our lives, for us to be salt and light to them while their brains turn on and while this becomes more real to them, because they're under the programming that we're just now talking about. How can they think a straight thought sometimes? They're totally saturated in it. It's up to us to be salt and light to help them see, oh my gosh, you're right. Exactly. Just like for all of your audience, this caller made so many things so much clearer in the way he describes that magazine cover, and brings out things that you got to think again about. He might have a point there. I see that now. When you start thinking like these people think, and all of a sudden, just like we are having this aha moment with the benefit of this man to us as an audience, and we're a pretty sharp, savvy audience. The people around you at the water cooler, at the coffee, at lunch, your relatives, your friends, your own kids or parents, they get to have their aha moment if you can articulate it clear enough and not be abrasive and be patient for those moments when they're willing and have an ear or will hear, and not to badger them when they're just not in that moment at the wrong time. Be sensitive to the move of God when it's the right time, when you're on saving ground.
Boy, very well said. And folks, please abide by that. You'll get further ahead if you listen to what you just said with respect to others. Yes, absolutely.
Well, we need to remember, this is a numbers game. We only win on the numbers. So to think that we are going to make it through this, and I got mine, too bad about you, that's remember, what's the enemy want to do? He wants us all dead.
Right.
What are you going to do? Do what he wants? We don't need just ourselves to survive. See, a lot of people, I kid about going back in the missile silo and popping the hatch down, but the reality is nobody's making it on their own. We have to, and what do we talk about from a scriptural standpoint? The body of Christ. We are members of the body. We, as a group, need to be working together in concert. And by the way, what are these other Illuminatus doing? They're working as a group, as a body. The actions of these people they're working together. Come on, that's what we're talking about with this magazine cover. This is an intelligent, coherent, conspiratorial activity by a whole bunch of people that a lot of times the left hand doesn't exactly know what the right hand's doing, but at the end of the day, it's in concert together and it works together. So what's happening with us within even your show? Those two people, the woman last night and the gentleman tonight, have never, ever spoken to each other ever. And yet, their messages, their information, what they added to these two shows over 2 different days, come together in this unbelievably beautiful, coherent blend of information that helped every member of your audience understand a critical aspect of the conspiracy that's taking place right now against them, their family, their life, their country.
I couldn't have said it better. You're exactly right.
We are very, very fortunate to have this method of communication as long as it lasts. And don't ever underestimate the danger that it poses to them. As I said last night, I'm a signals guy, communications. I need to know what the other guy's thinking and then look for opportunities and ways to throw the monkey wrench in there to stop them. That's how wars are won or lost. We're a threat as a body, as a group, as an audience, working together, listening and paying attention and showing up at church on the Hagmann and Hagmann show. Church being a body meeting. We're a body of believers meeting, communicating, sharing. That's our job.
Yeah, like it or not, by the way, it is our job, and I think our audience has done just a tremendous job based on the emails I've been getting, and well, as evidenced by the 2 calls back to back. You're exactly correct.
Well, I mean, we talk about the 2 calls. I mean, there's lots of other ones too. I'm just using those in this exact moment.
Well, yeah,
because let's say it this way too. We talked about the gal last night. Okay, so her piece of information was extremely precise. It was a very thin, precise, narrowly targeted message about salvation on a very narrow theme. And, it was like, just a precise needlepoint hit on something that needed to be addressed. This gentleman tonight crossed this huge expanse of information that really just covered the landscape in so many ways. And so both of them, though, were absolutely necessary to complete this, communication, this picture that made for a full service of church that just so happened to cover 2 nights for us, right? And it's almost like a tent meeting. And to tie these 2 messages together in this beautiful way. But again, that's the whole point. If we're communicating as a body, and if we're sharing information, if people within your audience then go back home and they share pieces and they are able to make it, share them in a coherent way, that's the thing where the audience now needs to think, can I share everything precisely? Do I just need to share the YouTube connection? Do I need to just have the conversation? Do you think these magazines, are they trying to communicate stuff with us? Just ask the questions within there and then allow a little bit of the response. Most people will admit, yeah, there's a little something there. I don't know what it is. Well, could it mean this or this? I mean, she used to be a Christian, or she says she's a Christian, and, even some of the stuff I sent you today, Doug, with Katy Perry, there was Christian organizations talking about how she's a great Christian role model just from last year in Christian groups. Yeah. You're going, what? Don't you get it? You haven't gotten the memo? Come on. I mean,
man, yeah, it's amazing when we take a few steps back and look at it from a larger, from a view from space.
Absolutely,
it is amazing.
And by the way, last thing, and I'll let your audience get back to if you haven't been listening to Gary Bell, one of the beautiful things is you can go back and listen to past shows. I just love him, and no slight to you and Joe. I do think Gary Bell is the greatest radio host on the planet at this time. He doesn't take callers. He just delivers a message. But I personally think he is the best of the best of the best. He's a gift to us.
all of those shows are so relevant, and he brings such depth of thought. I don't listen to him live a lot of times, although I like to. Of course, you have the show with Sheila, and I enjoyed that so much. But I'll listen to him during the course of the week and kind of listen through and get the bits and pieces, because there's a lot there to be digested. But we need to think deeper and to ruminate over some of these things a bit, the messaging, the activities, the actions of these groups. And, you know, it's time to, you've outgrown the kids' table, okay? I'm asking all of your audience to leave the kids' table now, move over to the adult table. We'll move the chairs in a little bit tighter and add a few chairs here at the table. But we all need to be eating, you know, the meat. We all need to be getting a square meal here and actually, you know, taking in this important information and working with it and, you know, growing up. And we're at an important point. All of your audience needs to be about work. It's not about playing right now. This is about getting to work, because we have important work ahead to stand, occupy, hold the ground as we were instructed to do.
Fantastic, my friend. And you're right. We do have work to do, and we need to do the work in which we need to play our positions, as you like to say.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, brother.
All right. All right. Look forward to hearing any
you,
of the callers tonight and the rest of the week. And I'm sorry, I've just been extremely busy these last few weeks. I have other stuff, as you know, that has got me an absolute full plate. But I try to listen when I can't listen live. I'll listen after the fact also as much as I can. And the show's been doing great. I think of your audience in prayer all the time, and that they'll continue to grow and take nourishment from things like what happened yesterday and today. And I really appreciate, you know, it says that you're not supposed to, I'm trying to think what the exact words are, disregard or undervalue the coming together of the saints. And we need to be aware that, you know, a show like this is really a coming together of the saints, and this is really a very large body of believers, church.
Right.
So I enjoy attending church with the rest of the Hagmann and Hagmann crowd, and it's just wonderful. And callers like last night, tonight, that's the whole story right there.
Well, we accept that with humility, and we appreciate that. So God bless.
Thank you, Debbie.
Good night.
All right, brother. Good night. Wow. Yeah, you know, folks. How
do you follow those last two calls?
Well,
down the show.
You know, I got to tell you something. We could do another 3 hours tonight. I'm sure that so many people on hold have just as great information. So I just wish that and we try to give everyone the opportunity. I mean, the gentleman that was calling from London, UK, you're talking about him being awake in the middle of the night. I do suspect that he was awake specifically to contact the show live to explain, to rise to the challenge that we provided yesterday. So that's why we, you know, certainly allowed him the latitude. Plus, the information was spot on in my view. In fact, a little bit more than I expected based on the cover of Harper's Bazaar. And, of course, W adds dimensionality to that information. Joe, you were saying that there was just another...
Yeah, there's a report here, a potential Ebola case in Honolulu. Patient in isolation in Honolulu hospitals. Officials say Ebola is a possibility. The Department of Health has confirmed a patient is currently in isolation and undergoing testing in a Honolulu hospitals. Officials say Ebola is a possibility. However, the patient has yet to be specifically tested for the virus. The two red flags that are raising the concerns of the potential for Ebola is that the patient has a fever and they have been in West Africa in the past 21 days.
Interesting. Well,
so something to keep your eye on. nothing to freak out about, obviously.
No, but just the reporting of that, Joe, here's what I find interesting. Where was Obama ostensibly, allegedly hatched? Hawaii, right?
Maybe.
We have Dallas. Well, yeah, I mean that's the official narrative. So we have Dallas. Now the second thing we hear is Hawaii. You're gonna hit.
We'll have to see how that plays out. There's actually some positive reporting on Ebola. They say that 2 of the countries in Africa, Nigeria and I got to find the other one, they're saying they've actually been able to contain the spreading of Ebola. They're positive that they've been able to contain it. And
with some camps and live rounds, why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah, and also, we didn't talk about this, but the head of the Secret Service resigned today, and the Washington Post and many others are reporting how the Secret Service agency is in turmoil, how the
which
President's
government
protection
agency isn't?
Exactly, and what is said is even worse is the lack of care from the President himself, as they stood behind the head of the Secret Service hours before she resigned. So you even have Chris Matthews saying Obama has gotten lazy, and many people are you have within a matter of 3 days, a guy jumps a fence with a knife, makes it all the way through the White House. Another guy boards an elevator armed with the President on the elevator. Luckily, he was not trying to do any harm to the President, as he would have been able to do so with the Secret Service there, and nobody would have known what happened. But pray for the President and his safety. Because can you imagine the chaos that would happen, that would be unleashed on this country if something happened to him in a violent fashion? We don't want that to happen.
No, and once is I can see where there might be a mistake once. I can see twice being something totally different, and that this is just what we know about. And for that person yesterday, the day before, to get all the way to the East Room, are you kidding me? All right.
With that, we will end the show.
You know what? I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen, with the monopolization of the calls. Please, I just want to thank you for your patience. If you were on the phone to talk, I just want to thank you so much for your patience and apologize. Please call back in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always hard. Some nights we do get to most or all the calls, and some nights we don't get to even close to half of them. But we do appreciate your patience, your time, and as my dad said, if you didn't get through, we will have plenty other nights. Not this week. Next week, we'll have some time to take calls, but we'll make it a point to have shows where we do just take calls and hear from our audience. As W said so eloquently, that the amount of information and expertise of our listening audience, they need to be heard from. Their points are, in many cases, very important, timely, and a lot of times much better articulated than ours and than we can ever do. And our audience is very smart, and we need to use that. And as we stick together and fight this fight against the evil that we are faced with.
I look at it as just as a family, and I don't say that lightly. We are a family. We are the remnant, I believe, or a remnant, and I think that each and every one of you who have listened, are listening, continue to listen. Folks, you're so important to us. You really are, and I've learned so much from each and every one of you. The people we've met, whether it be Orlando or Bozeman, who listen, and other locations, Ohio, Akron, Ohio, where we were, a year ago. I just want to say, you folks mean so much to both Joe and I. We just really appreciate you immensely. We really do. We have the best listening audience of any talk show.
Absolutely.
Right.
With that, stay safe. God bless. We will see you back here tomorrow night with V and Mark Ratcliffe. And don't forget, Friday, Steve Quayle will be on with Henry Groover. Henry Groover, always a fantastic speaker, giving great spiritual insight and experience of his travels around the world. That's Friday, Steve Quayle and Henry Groover, but tomorrow V and Mark Ratcliffe will be on with the financial information as we see the changes in metals and gas prices. So it's and the rising cost of groceries. We're going to get our information on what to expect here in the near future tomorrow from V, and then the spiritual side with Henry Groover and Steve on Friday. Till tomorrow, stay safe, God bless, and have a great night.